Built in 1818, the John B. Maggard House is a surviving example of the settlement-era dog trot style. Located in eastern Kentucky in the community of Oven Fork, the cabin sits at the confluence of the Poor Fork of the Cumberland River and Franks Creek. The building form is comprised of the original log structure in various editions ranging from 1947 to the early 2000s, and was initially built by John B. Maggard as a home place for himself and his family. It is now owned by my grandmother, Barbara Church. John B. Maggard was the oldest son of Samuel Maggard and Rebecca Robinson. Originally from Virginia, the couple sought to relocate to the frontier of Kentucky in the early 1800s. They set out in a caravan of 15 wagons, their slaves and young children in tow, following the Cumberland River. Throughout the day, the men cleared a path through the treacherous landscape of the Appalachian Mountains, while during the night the family slept under the cover of their wagons, with a large fire kept burning for protection against the dangers of the forest. Intending to reach central Kentucky by way of Pound Gap, Samuel Maggard and his clan found the ascent to be too difficult and instead went through Flat Gap. It was along the Cumberland that the family mistakenly headed southwest instead of northwest, and by the time he had realized the mistake, winter was approaching. It was by the sheer twist of fate that the Maggard family decided to settle in the Cumberland Valley, where John B. Maggard House currently stands. John was only 9 years old when his family came down from the Cumberland River so many years ago. He grew up on the Maggard homestead not far from his future dwelling, laboring day after day by clearing bottoms to be planted and hunting game for the family. When John turned 21, he erected a hewed log, one-room cabin for himself by the bank of the Cumberland River that would later be used as a detached kitchen. In 1818, he built a large double-log house that is present-day John B. Maggard House and put out a crop in the surrounding bottom. All that was left for the young man to do was to find a wife. Not long after the completion of his cabin on August 13, 1818, John married Sarah Adams of Whitesburg, Kentucky. It was here that John and Sarah raised 12 children until they moved to Leslie County in 1847. It is noted through anecdotal evidence that the cabin was used as a stop on the Underground Railroad, wherein runaway slaves would hide in the cellar of the house and escape to the nearby bank of the river. Built of mostly yellow poplar and chestnut logs cut from the surrounding site, the John B. Maggard House is a single-pile, 7-bay dog trot style dwelling. The dog trot style was common throughout the southeastern United States in the 19th and 20th centuries, with some scholars marking its origin in the southern Appalachian Mountains. The style is characterized by the presence of a large breezeway through the center of the house to cool occupants during the hot summer months. Being of this style, the front two rooms of the Maggard House were built 2 stories high with a space of 10 feet between and the roof connecting both sections together. Another room was built to the back of the right side of the house. 3 chimneys were constructed with sandstone cut from a nearby rock formation, one at each end of the gabled roof and another in the back. The log structure was originally held together with mud chinking, later replaced by cement and dovetailed notching at the corners. The original L-shaped log structure has seen numerous additions, most notably in 1947 when Dan Blair purchased the property and subsequently tore down the log room in the back of the house, building a wood-framed addition of 4 rooms across the width of the original building in its place. He then covered the entire outside with asbestos siding as seen in these pictures. He also added a front porch at this time. The John B. Maggard House underwent another renovation in the early 2000s when Ronnie Smith bought the house and built onto the back. He worked to restore the original cabin, taking its siding off and repairing the log structure. It was at this time that a double-height entry porch was constructed along with a full-width 1-story porch across the width of the cabin. Smith added new, dark green roofing and stone on select parts of the exterior walls. This is how the house stands currently. The house is now owned by my grandmother, Barbara, who intends to update the later additions of the house while restoring the original cabin to its former glory. Many threats to the preservation of the house exist in the present day. The largest and most menacing threat is the further development of Highway 119 along the Cumberland River. The Kentucky Department of Transportation has expressed interest to connect a new highway to an exit by the cabin, effectively taking over the surrounding picturesque landscape with the backside of highway infrastructure. However, previous efforts have been made to protect the site. The house was surveyed by the Kentucky Historic Resources Inventory in the fall of 1981 and determined to be eligible for the National Register. Other threats to preservation include ongoing maintenance of the original structure, as stones have begun to fall out of the chimneys and the original logs have begun to rot in some places. The John B. Maggard House matters because it is a significant and well-maintained example of Eastern Kentucky frontier architecture. This house was built with the intention of hosting a family and has continued to fulfill this role in the present day. The place is not only significant to Kentucky's place in history, but also to the personal history of the original settlers of the Cumberland Valley and their descendants. Further, the John B. Maggard House showcases the transition of early America as a society dependent on slaves to a society that fought for their freedom. This place matters.